I am delighted to welcome Sarah Tate onto the TRM podcast. After a fascinating career focused on development and learning with organizations such as Google and YouTube, world-class coach Sarah shares what she's learned about innovative learning solutions. How do you foster best practice? How do you make learning the norm and build the right habits within a team and organization? Every one of us is or should be trying to build a learning culture within our businesses, and Sarah and I chat about how to go about it. Loved hearing Sarah's expertise and insights. Enjoy it. A massive welcome to TRM Podcast to Sarah Tate, dialing in from York.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. And you, again, a lot of people on this might not know you, when I heard of you. You run this business called one of the best names of a business I've come across, Dreamification. Absolutely love it.
It's not actually, it's Sarah Tate Coaching now, which is less interesting.
Oh.
Partly because Dreamification was so hard to say, but yes, Sarah Tate Coaching, because a lot of people come to me because they've known me before and met me in the industry, and so I figured I'd make it simple for them and just call it, maybe a little egotistically, after myself.
Love it. Well, we're going to touch on all things learning, coaching, career development. But you've had a fascinating career. Do you want to just give us the short version of what's brought you to where you are today?
Sure. Well, actually, funnily enough, I started out in my early 20s wanting to be a professor teaching English. And I think I quickly realized that wasn't the right kind of world for me. That's a world that moves quite slowly. But what I did think I have from the beginning is a kind of passion for education and a passion for empowering other people, which I still practice now as a coach. So I started life as a copywriter in advertising and media, just when digital was hitting. And digital teams were quite new and there was a lot of change going on. And I found myself very attracted to that change and all of those new and disruptive ways of working that it was bringing along with it. And so I decided I wanted to go and work for Google back in 2010. And I joined them over there working with big advertising and media agencies at that time. And that was the beginning of a 13-year career in Alphabet, where I worked in Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for a while. I worked globally in strategy and operations roles. I worked in some marketing roles. I worked in some sales and commercial roles. I had loads of leadership development opportunities. And by the time I left, I was working in YouTube across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, running creator enablement. So working with top YouTube creators to help them grow their business and make a living on the platform.
We'll come back to the why you're doing what you're doing, but I'm really. Did you say I want it to be Google, or did you because it was an innovative, forward-thinking organization, or was it actually you wanted to take your skills into the digital world?
I wanted to take my skills into the digital world, and I think I was particularly attracted to Google. At that time, they were still founder-led. They were still run by Larry and Sergey. They were really big, but they were still really innovative, and they were still moving really fast. And you still had a kind of lot of autonomy. It was a bit messier back then than it was now. And so I wanted to work for Google because they had great people, amazing talent. They had incredible opportunities to move and to be mobile. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, I think. But I think the Google brand in particular, because of their culture and because of the opportunities that they brought, I specifically wanted to work for that company, and I worked quite hard back then to get into Google particularly.
Fantastic. You had some great gigs there. Head of video mastery, I like that one.
Yeah, I know. Some big titles there.
Great titles in that. So after that, then why the move that you've made into the coaching? Obviously, as you say, you've always loved learning and helping people develop. Was that a natural next step? And there's seems to be a focus around the career development piece. So why the specific focus on that?
Yeah, so a lot of the jobs I did at Google ended up being around education, helping other people grow or change or do something differently. So I always loved that kind of work. So actually, I trained as a coach 5 years before I left Google, and I was coaching as a side hustle for a while before I made the decision to go full time earlier this year. Um, and I think where I thought I could bring as a coach and starting a coaching business, is particularly specializing in career transition, which is where I work. I work particularly with people who feel like they've lost their way, know they want to do something different, not quite sure what that looks like yet, need some help thinking about what it is and how to navigate it. Or sometimes people who want to love where they are but want to reconnect with their workplace and kind of, I guess, just supercharge their trajectory a little bit more.
Mm.
And what I think why I wanted to do it myself was that I spotted an opportunity for people who are ex-tech and ex-commercial in tech, people who've done commercial roles in tech, to help with clients from that area, because I think, like probably like most sectors, it has its own language, it moves extremely fast, there's a very high level of ambiguity, and it helps to work with coaches who really get that and who understand that and who have that kind of shared understanding. And also, I just noticed, having had a pretty flexible career myself, having done a lot of different kind of roles, career transition is hard. You really have to think about how you kind of reimagine what you're capable of and how you reimagine how the skills you've built somewhere can work in a totally different context.
Mm.
And that can take some effort. It can take some real reflection and it can take some self-exploration. So just as an example, I've worked a lot with doctors. So a doctor has done all this training, had this incredible vacation, practiced in the NHS. And every single doctor I've ever worked with has said, I don't know how to survive outside that. I want to do something different. I'm ready for a change. But I've only ever been a doctor and I only know how to be a doctor. And actually, if you think about it, if you're a doctor, oh my gosh, you have incredible skills. Think
Mm.
about like those interpersonal skills. Think about how much learning you've had to do, how much keeping up to date you've had to do, how curious you are. Think about your ability to work under pressure. And then think about all the innovations that's going on with healthcare and tech right now and the intersection of that, and how you need people with that medical knowledge. Actually, with a bit of imagination, if you're transitioning from a career like that, there's loads of opportunity, but you do have to be imaginative about it. And you have to be imaginative about how you frame it. And you have to see yourself in a different way. And that's
Yeah.
exciting for me. I like working with that process.
Yeah, but even listening you describe that, Sarah, I can see how actually the coaching element, asking the right questions to get people thinking a little bit differently, is going to be utterly critical. When it comes to reflections about our careers, do the different generations have a different approach to it? I've got a 29-year-old son who's doing a little bit of career transitioning at the moment. Seems to be heading towards the sunshine and the surf, and. But I am quite interested because you use the example of the doctor who might want to have a complete change of direction, and we all either employ or work with, and as recruiters, dialogue with people who maybe we're not asking the right questions to about career development. So a couple of questions: multi-generational, is the next generation coming into the workplace thinking differently, and therefore as employers, do we need to engage them differently? What's your take on that?
I'm curious about your son. What would you say motivates your son? What's he most motivated by when he's thinking about what he wants to do next?
Uh, Experience.
Experience. And
Yeah.
I say that's actually at the heart of what you're asking. So when I meet people who are coming to me for the first time, particularly, I guess, the younger folks, people who are not yet in senior leadership roles, none of them ever say, I want more money or I want a promotion.
Mm.
Or I want to get up the ladder where I currently am. They're all here because they feel like in some way they want to be happier. They want to feel like they're having impact. And normally that's not financial impact, that's often social impact, something that aligns with their values. Um, and they want to feel kind of motivated and enthusiastic.
Mm.
And that's what's most important. Like that's what's prompting them to change. Versus, I think in previous generations, it would have been much more around stability, much more around financial remuneration. And that
Mm.
always comes in, but it's never the first on the list.
Mm.
And so I do think there's been a big shift in mindset and well, it's been a well-documented and well-researched shift in mindset and a shift in motivation. And I think there's other things that help prompt that. First of all, that people are living a lot longer, we're moving to a world where we live for 100 years, and so we'll work for a lot longer. No one wants to be in the same organization for that long. It sounds extremely boring. And so we're much more likely to want portfolio careers, careers where we move around a lot, careers where we get experience in different places. The other thing, of course, is there's much more uncertainty. Everyone talks about this, and it's a kind of obvious point, but with the rise of AI, A, we don't know how existing roles will change, and B, we don't know what roles are going to exist in the future.